Okay, so January 12th, we know that I Told Sunset About You is coming to Viki. It's already on Netflix in Asia. It's already in the top 10 on Netflix, top 10 dramas on Netflix in Asia, and it only got up there on like the 28th. Just so you understand, my obsession and love of this series is bigger than me. But I wanted to kind of step into some things and remind myself of some things. And one thing is color theory and how it relates to I Told Sunset About You. So I'm just going to do a series on that because it interests me. And there's other things in it that I'll touch on, but I want to start with the colors. It was fun to kind of go back to the colors and the color theory because I know more. So backing up, and I do want to be clear about this. The show itself is an original work. It's an original script, and it was written based off of or inspired by Bilkin and Pee. It is not 100% Bilkin and Pee. It is definitely not 100% their story because they didn't meet as little kids. They met in high school. So I've already seen some like misunderstandings going around. They are similar to their characters. Their characters are inspired by them, but they are not their characters. And that story is not their story. It is a story inspired by real life events. And we are never told where that line is of real life and them. We're never told. So anyone that tries to tell you they know or they've figured it out, they don't know. None of us know because they keep their business locked up. To that effect, though, a lot of some of their business is just on social media because they were high school kids and they didn't know enough to not share everything. So there is a bit you can find if you go back, but all of their stories not there. You know, there are pieces missing. It's just Twitter posts and Instagram posts. All that to be said, I like to draw the parallels, but I'm also cautious in understanding that this is a fictional story inspired by two people, not based on the real life story of two people. And I want to remind you of that as we go into that. I say all of that, I am wordy, because now that I've learned more about them, when I first studied the color theory and tied it to the series, I was looking at it purely on the characters. Now that I've like learned more about who they are in real life, it is fascinating how it matches them as people too. And it's just interesting. So let's do it. Come with me. So now that we know kind of the meanings behind it, we can look at how it was used within the series. And it really starts to introduce itself when they go on that trip and they're outside, they're away from their friends, and O picks up the hibiscus that's on the ground on the beach. And it starts to become like a tool, a piece of their flirting, a part of that dance that, of course, leads them to the hammock and leads them to the confession. And everything about that moment is centered around the hibiscus. He's rubbing the hibiscus as he says, I think you know. You know, don't you? If you don't know, but I think you know. That whole scene, amazing. But you've got, Tay with the hibiscus behind his ear and holding the hibiscus in his hand and, rubbing Tay's thumb as he rubs the hibiscus. So all of that, if we think about passion, if we think about the masculine and the feminine, if we think about this harbinger of love and the ability to find the soulmate, all of that is indicative in that moment. And that flower just kind of doubles, triples down on what's happening. Flip side of that is when he, is conflicted and he goes to Tarn and he has that moment where she's waiting for him to color in, her purple hibiscus, and he colors in the red. It's another piece of telling us that his heart has already attached to where it's going to go. That bright, vibrant hibiscus red that is on O. And even in this moment where he's now, he is full-blown panic, all the way in a different headspace. And you see, not only did he move into the red shirt, but there's hibiscus on the ground where he's writhing all over, sniffing the paper. And as they go out, O is wearing that bright red shirt, but it also has hibiscus on it. So he is literally walking around as that invitation of love and passion. And as things come full circle and they have that moment in the house and then the water, you see that the hibiscus is still there. He is still in that passion moment, but it's less prominent and it's completely gone from O. So it's just some ways that the hibiscus is used to tell the story. So from the beginning, we see that O is in red. O knows who he is from day one, even though he may not be doing all of the things that Tae thinks he should be doing. He is very confident in who he is. And that is the same O that we meet when they come together again in the tutoring class in that red jacket. And I remember people like picking on like, why is he in that jacket? It is hot in Thailand, but that jacket is like his suit of armor, and it is also like signifying who O is. So basically red, it's action, energy, passion, power. It draws attention, it stimulates and provokes its vitality, but it's also dangerous and aggressive and impulsive. And this kind of threw me for a loop when I was reading it, because yes, these are all O things where O is very passionate. O loves hard. O is very confident. But then I started thinking about Pee and his interviews just in this last year, where he's really talked about himself, and he's said many of these things about himself, that he's dramatic, that he is, feisty, but he also loves really, really, really hard, and he is very passionate about the things that he does. So it's really interesting to get to know him as a person better, not just the character, and see how the two parallel. And that an impulsive lover is 100% how PP describes himself. So that part I was like, oh dang, okay. I tried to pull just some different color theory from out there. So we have this particular description, to me, really focuses more on PP as opposed to O, although there are bits of O in it. The vitality and the confidence, I think those are aspects of who O is. But this idea of like grandeur and ready to take on the world and luxury, I feel like that encompasses a lot of who PP is. So there's a commingling there. There's a sentence in this one that kind of sticks with me. For those who prefer the sidelines, seeing the color red may introduce them to the limelight. Its ability to change one's perspective is what makes this hue so intriguing. It makes me think of how changed Tae becomes when he interacts with O again in the tutoring school, how he's immediately drawn back in to all that O is, and how he begins to change who he is as he is pulled in to O. This initial description to me describes the first re-encounter of O and Tae, where he comes in the room and O is in that jacket and he's just kind of glaring at him, and we don't know at that point how things are going to go down. This idea of this level of captivation, the intimidation, and that domineeringness that takes people off guard, that's 100% the way Tae walks into the room. He's not prepared for the presence that is O, and he is immediately, you see him kind of surveying O's stature in that group and looking for ways to kind of assert himself in the situation, and also immediately trying to mimic what O is, because he's very aware of O's how O is seen by others, that he is popular, that he is well liked. You know, you went to his Instagram page and he's clearly like very, very well liked. And there's a piece of Tay that is now longing for that or wants that, and is intimidated by that, although he would never say that out loud, I don't think. And so all of this description of like a leading lady is very much O, and it's very much Tay's interaction with O. And it also mimics their story of how they first met in a tutoring class where Bilkin felt like PP was popular. PP was the cool kid, and Bilkin wanted that. Bilkin wanted to be seen in that way. And so he immediately identified PP as the competition. So even if PP wasn't in the red, he saw that red. He saw that dominance. He saw that captivation that PP had over the room. And he wanted to combat that or try to assert himself in some way in that first interaction. So I think this perfectly describes that scene in the story, and also if their real life first interaction were a scene, it would describe it as well. So when we talk about love and the color red, we talk about lust and desire and seduction, but it also strikes this perfect balance between sexy and feminine. And I think as far as that passion piece and that desire piece, like we know O is just this very, he once he understands that he has love for Tay, like that is his driving force of everything. To what I would say, some may say his own detriment, because he allows that love to like make all of the decisions for him. But he also, he has that confidence and he's able to stick up for himself. He is able to stand up for himself, but love is going to win out in the end and make those final decisions. But I liked the line as it pertains to PP about this balance between sexy and feminine, because I really think as PP creates his image, as he figures out, where he is and what that image is he's portraying, I think sexy and that the balance of sexy and feminine is what he does with what he wears, with his music, with how he portrays himself. So I got really excited when I saw that line, because I was like, oh, that's 100% PP. And he also is a person who loves hard. He has said, on a scale of 1 to 10, he's 10 mega passion, love. Like he is all in when it comes to love. But with all of that passion, right, there can be this this darker side of like, don't mess around with someone who is in that red space, because that anger is going to be just as powerful as that love is. And you can see that through O. Like, O will fight back. O will. And this is the thing. I feel like Tay and O make dumb decisions at the end of the story. I don't know that one is more impetuous than the other, but when he is angry, he's going to be impulsive and just lash out the way he did with Tay, and refusing that scholarship. Like he is going to hurt others as much as he feels hurt. But it also made me think of PP's song Fireboy, and I was like, oh dang, like this whole song completely encompasses all that we've been talking about. Like, don't mess with me. I love hard. It is a hot fire, red flame. And if you mess with me, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight back as hard as I'll love you. So all those parallels are there that I didn't have when I first watched the series. It's very cool. So coming in now, we're going to talk about Tay and Bilkin and how he comes in with this blue. He is fully blue when he meets OAO. And we see that blue consistent throughout the first couple of episodes. There is a moment of red that's going to come in, but I kind of want to pause on the red and talk about how the colors begin to change as they begin to change as people. But in this moment here, you can see where PP has moved into the blue, and Bilkin is at this point. I think he's regressed back to blue, but he has that flecks of red with the red flowers. So you can see that progression of change in color. The color doesn't stay adhered just to the character, but to their emotions and where they are at emotionally in that moment. So when we talk about blue, we're talking about trust, responsibility, loyalty, authority. It's also calming, where red is passion and fire. You've got a more relaxed tone with blue, a calmer tone with blue. It's creative. It's all about order and honesty and being right and doing right, commitments, all of those things. But it can also be conservative, predictable, and depressive. And if this is not a full description of both Tay and Bilkin, I don't know what is. Like, it is such a revelation for me right now, looking back at these colors, not just as they adhere to the character, but as they relate to them as people as well. It's wild for me right now. Clearly, I'm easily entertained, but it is. I mean, when we think about Tay is conservative, right? Tay is very focused on order and doing things the right way. Tay is also very responsible, trustworthy. That the respect for authority is there with Tay. So you can see all of those things in him, where he's not going to be impulsive. He's going to think about things. He's very intelligent. All of those things come with Tay. And Bilkin as well. Bilkin said he's a planner. Bilkin said he's going to plan every day all the way into the future. He really likes order. He is very conservative. He's just the yin and yang to how PP is. So it's just, he's predictable. Not lately. So maybe he's getting some red in his life, but he used to be extremely predictable. So it's just also interesting. So let's talk about Tay, Bilkin, and Blue. Overall, Blue is really about bravery and dedication. It's about wisdom, depth of understanding, but also there is a depression side to Blue. Sometimes I think if we think too much, we can think ourselves into sadness, right? But there can also be a serenity and a calm that comes with that understanding, right? And it is the opposite of red. So it's not as that passion isn't there, but it is consistent and it is settled and unchanging. And I think as like a kindred color where there's this fire and passion that is red, that is Oeo, that is PP. You've got this settled, calming, steadfast, predictable, kind of a rock symbol that is Tay, that is Bilkin. And so it makes sense that these two colors to come together, and it makes sense that they work so well together. What comes with this is this idea of susceptible to pain. What does that mean? That they can be hurt deeply. Blue can feel that sense of betrayal so deeply, and even though it's good to like feel strongly, those feelings can control them, and they can be hypersensitive. So let's talk about Tay, right? We understand like immediately he is hurt by almost everything that Oeo does. He takes everything so personally. And when he taps into that hurt and pain, it destroys him. We see him just weep for days. Like he can become consumed with his own sadness. And it where the passion and the fire and the drive of that red controls Oeo's decision making, the deep sadness and that sense of betrayal or anything like that is going to be what drives Tae, right? So the minute Tae feels like hurt by O, he makes a decision, but it's not impulsive. He spent all day, cut weeks, I don't even know how long, cutting up that book to create for O. So it's still a crazy decision that he made, but it wasn't an impulsive one where O turns down the scholarship in a fiery rage. Do you know what I mean? So that blue is also like it thrives on organization, but almost to a fault where it can become controlling. Um, and if if things get rocked out of what is expected, things can go really bad really fast. And we see that in Tae. We see that he has his plan. He knows what school he wants to go to. He has the perfect grades, the perfect scores. He's done everything right. And that fiery red of an OAO entered his world and turned it upside down. And he lost control. He lost control. And once that control was gone, it makes me think that moment when he's smelling the coconut or just laying on the ground, that's when that red starts to appear, right? And he's laying on the ground in his room and like sniffing in the paper. That is where control is gone. That is where the decision making skills left, right? And that is when he kind of falls into the chaotic side of things. And it's a hot mess. He makes dumb decisions. He says really painful, hurtful things. It is not a pretty sight when that control is lost because blue thrives in predictability. And so that can be a negative association where you can feel unsettled or afraid of secrets deeply held. And I mean, that is Tae, right? That he is holding on to this discovery of his sexuality, and it's terrifying for him. It can also come off as like impersonal or unfriendly, which I think that is how you can view Tae, and especially at the beginning of the series, he's just so tightly wound, so pent up, that you don't get to really enjoy who he is till later, till he starts to interact with O. You get to see this playful side of him. And I'm going to say that was my journey with Bilkin as an actor in the beginning when he was with Nadal. That's how I felt like even in his early years with Pee, I'm going to say those old videos, I was like, that dude seems controlling. Like I was not 100% down with those old videos, but as I've watched him grow as a person and also gotten to see him beyond these snippets, I see that there's more there, but it really does tie into that color theory. I'll save this for the next part. So with the color blue, you also have this positive side, where they're a counselor, they're a friend, they're going to be able to help you, and they want to give more than they want to receive. There is this selflessness about them, and they're going to provide guidance, and that's all the things you see in Tae, where Tae really wanted to define that relationship around the tutoring, because that was Tae's comfort zone. That made sense today. Tae, and the thing he was giving was knowledge and assistance. There was a goal, of passing this test and getting into the school, and so everything had an order, and he could give, he could give his knowledge to O so that O could then achieve that goal. So it all kind of wraps together. And I think he liked there was a spark in being able to be that person for O. And if we look at Bilkin, it is very much the same thing, where Bilkin is extremely intelligent. He is he is someone who wants to talk and explain everything to the nth degree. It actually reminds me of my father in the sense that, and I guess I do the same thing, so I can't even I'll call myself out. I'm very much that person too. But he likes providing guidance, and he was, he was that person for PP. He helped PP figure out his goal. He gave advice. He provided possibility and direction. And he will give everything to PP. And I think people see that as a negative, but I think that is, everybody has their joy point of what makes them happy. And if someone, if their joy is giving, whether it be material or advice or financial or whatever, if that's where their joy point is, it's hard to kind of step in and say you shouldn't be doing that, because that's what brings them happiness. And I see that in the character, and I see that in Bilkin as well. And I relate a lot more to all of that. I feel like I am a blue person too. So all of this makes sense and sounds so familiar. Along with that, you've got someone who's going to be a protector. He's going to be brave and loyal. All of these different things that we see in Tay, that we see in Bilkin. And it's just so cool how just a color can inform so much about a character. Okay, so final part. Like I said in the beginning, the colors change. So I think it's difficult to say, although they very much adhere to the different characters, they change as the characters change throughout the series. So in the beginning, Tay is our blue, PP is our red, or O is our red, and they're pretty in their lanes of who they are. But as they interact and move forward, things start to change as Tay becomes more like interested in O, and O starts to learn more about who Tay is now. That moment with the coconut, where that scent and that smell triggers something different in him than what he had previously felt. He's still in blue, and he's in such a deep blue because they had that argument, right? He had just totally shut down on O because he didn't understand. He was jealous. He didn't understand that he had lost control of the situation, and it had angered him. And so he said things he shouldn't have said, and he hurt O, but he couldn't process what was happening with him. And so we see him in that blue. He is just fully shut off. But that scent of that coconut has confused him. And then we move into the next day. And this is the first true red that we get. After the trip, things go down on that trip. And when he comes back and he's writhing on the ground in his room, he's in this red now. But it's not a bright red. You see that really vibrant red that O is in? He's not all the way there yet. He's in his in-between. So the in-between color for Tay is this kind of maroon. And the in-between color for O is this red with flecks of blue. Because O knows who he is, but that blue that's creeping in is the uncertainty of Tay. And so now you've got like this shifting of the colors. They aren't just this one thing anymore. But this breaks me every single time. Seeing O lose his red hurts me. And if you pay attention, these colors and these exact shirts reappear in I Promise You the Moon. But yeah, O in blue is the worst thing I could possibly see. But again, Tay still has that red. He's still got that red going on. So he's not fully lost yet, but he has regressed in that scene. I just love this series so much. I love all the symbolism. I get so excited when you guys ask questions. Yay. I'm going to be honest. I'm still fuzzy on the timeline of things, and I learn something new every single day. So I want to be careful around timelines and maybe just talk in general. I was doing timelines a little earlier, and now I'm like, girl, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm pumping the brakes on timelines, guys. But in general, we know that they met in tutoring school. So where the characters met when they were little and then were reintroduced to each other in tutoring school, the tutoring school is the commonality between them. The way they were kind of combative in the big when they met in tutoring school because they had this old beef. Their story, which changes a lot, they bicker about it. But from all that's been said, basically, it was like a miscommunication where Bilkin thought PP didn't like him, and Bilkin saw PP as like this cool kid with all these friends. So you see, O really has the friend group when Tay arrives, right? So PP has this tight friend group, and Bilkin's from a different school. So he's coming in and he doesn't really have anybody. And he's just decides that they're in competition. Like they're the two, because he's the cool kid at his school, Bilkin is. So he's like, oh, that's my rival. That's the one I gotta like be cooler than. And so there is a back and forth that they have in the beginning until Bilkin lets it go because he's like, we're going to go to Nidau together. Let me not. I mean, that's the way they explain it. Y'all, there's probably a whole lot of other subtext to all of that they're leaving out on purpose. And that is their prerogative. That is their private life. We don't need to know all their business. But there was definitely a rivalry of sorts. And if you hear PP tell it, it's a rivalry in Bilkin's mind. Like he was not pressed about Bilkin. He just didn't know why Bilkin was being so like intense about him. And, when you look at Tay's jealousy of the popularity of O and you hear PP say, well, he saw me as popular, Bilkin saw me as popular, and he thought we were rivals, like that stuff matches. And Bilkin tutored PP. Bilkin used to come to PP's house and tutor him. And he kept tutoring him all the way through college, I think. Not seriously tutoring him, because he said PP was frustrating and lazy sometimes and always wanted to go out to eat instead. But Bilkin did help him and tutor him, and PP gives him credit for that and him doing well in school. Now that we've talked about the colors and we understand that blue and red are the undertone and the themes that describe both Ao, Bilkin, and PP and how they interact throughout the series, we can get into some other symbology, one being the hibiscus flower. The hibiscus flower is really a representation of the power that femininity has to be receptive. It is the red, specifically the red hibiscus is seen as a symbol of love and is given to a partner. It is also this idea of ephemeral beauty, this idea that you need to seize the moment, to take or not take, but partake in the good things as they come, because they could be fleeting, just like this flower. It's the perfect gift for a lover because it symbolizes romantic love and passion. If you're single, it's considered good luck because it's going to bring romance into your life and help you find your soulmate. The flower itself was purposely chosen by the director because he wanted something that showed the balance between both male and female. And the hibiscus flower has both male and female reproductive structures. Along with that, having O be the red and Tarn be the purple, O signifying, as we said, this harbinger of love and passion and relationship, where the purple hibiscus symbolizes respect for others and an ability to welcome in people with different backgrounds or faiths. It's a coolness and a mixture of the blue and the warmth of the red. So Tarn, honestly, being that that purple hibiscus was never going to be the one for Tay. But I do love that piece about this ability to accept backgrounds, because in the end, I feel like Tarn's ability to see past the relationship she could have had and the hurt that Tay put on her in order to accept him, which helped him come to a place where he could open his heart to O. And also that balance of feminine and masculine, I see that in PP even still right now, where he tries to describe his style and who he is. He's really working on finding that balance. Okay, as I was looking for information on the fish, which I think they're beta fish. Someone correct me. Which also has symbology. I stumbled across a beautiful breakdown of the painting and scene in the first scene of episode 4. I have always wanted to know what this painting meant. So these are not my thoughts. This is from @Nuvamen on Twitter. I will put their Twitter handle in. I don't want credit for this because this is not me, but they did the work. It's an old Chinese painting, and it contains a woman in red and the husband in blue. And the painting is a mix of Confucianism and Taoism, where the Chinese family in the frame is consisting of that red and blue, and also touching on Taoism, where there's a harmony, the yin and the yang between the red woman, blue man. So we see that as they're like getting close to each other, we see that picture pan across. And as they're out in the open, they're not fully connecting, right? And they're both in blue. So in the picture, this harmony, this man and the woman, red and blue, they're in contrast and in conflict with that. Both men, both in blue. They can't embrace until they get under the stairwell, because they are not in line with that natural order. They have to be hidden under the stairwell to fully connect in the way that they want to. And that theme continues when they get to the ocean. The same thought. And I hadn't thought about the blue of the ocean. I talked about color theory, and I don't know how I left out the blue of the ocean. Blue, which is a representation of boys. There's no red, and that going under the surface. They can't be out where it can be seen, because again, they are in conflict with the harmony of what is quote unquote natural and right in this Chinese painting. There's a final line I want to read, and I'm going to just read it because it's beautiful. The thing to note is one can't breathe underwater, but our boys can only truly be themselves when they are submerged within, which means the choice presented to them is either to stay hidden and not live life freely, or choose to live life freely and not live. Absolutely beautiful.